As promised, this is the screencast for you to work on your lab report that's due Thursday. First of all, this is your first quantitative lab report, and there's guidelines for what to do on page A21 in your lab manual. You need to have a cover page. Please look at page A21 to determine what you need to put on your cover page. You need to print out the spreadsheet. So let's look at the spreadsheet that we worked on in lab on Thursday. You should have this section filled out from week 1. This is what you turned in to me before lab last week. And then we worked on this section in lab on Thursday. One thing that we didn't have time to do was look at sig figs. So let's talk about that real quick. The concentration that was on the box of the sodium hydroxide, however many sig figs there were on the box, just leave it. You can see then that the uncertainty has 2 significant figures, and so this calculation here should have 2 significant figures. All of your burette volumes should have been to the 100th place, and these are, and your pipetted acetic acid should have also been to the 100th place, so these are fine. This is a subtraction problem, so when you're subtracting with sig figs, you always go to the place, whatever place the numbers that you're using go to, and it goes to the 100th, so this goes to the 100th. That one is good. And then finally, we need to look at our calculation for the concentration of acetic acid. We used the sodium hydroxide, the volume of the sodium hydroxide, and the volume of the acetic acid. Because those all have 4 sig figs, your answer should also have 4 sig figs. So the way that you can change that is go up to the top of your Excel program, and there's 2 little buttons. One says decrease the decimal, one says increase the decimal. We need to add an extra sig fig, so I'm going to click that, and now I have one. The uncertainty was found by taking the square root of the sum of the squares of your 2 uncertainties. These both have 2 sig figs, so that should only have 2. We're good. And then when we went down to relative uncertainty, again, we were working with 2 sig figs, and same thing here. And if you're still having trouble with any of the formulas, here I'll go through and I'll click on the calculations, and you can always hit pause on the video. So there's one calculation that we did. There's another. There's the concentration of acetic acid calculation. Uncertainty for Q14. Relative uncertainty of the acetic acid and relative uncertainty of the sodium hydroxide volume. Remember that we did copy and paste a lot of these down below as well, so they're very similar. Here's the calculation for relative uncertainty of the acetic acid concentration. So let's look at our sig figs for this. We were using the relative uncertainties that we had up here, and because those only have 2 sig figs, this one only has 2 sig figs, and the uncertainty will also only have 2. Scrolling down, and actually I'm going to scooch over a little bit. That's from the box. That's a calculation. These are your burette volumes to the 100th, your pipette volume to the 100th. That's how you find your net NaOH. There's your acetic acid concentration. Now, if you remember up here, we had 4 sig figs for that calculation. How many do we have here? Uh-oh, we have 5. So we need to change that. I'm going to decrease the decimal on that one. Here we have 2 sig figs. Now this one is definitely out of whack here. I've got Q35, Q26, and these only have 2 sig figs, so this has way too many. So you're going to go up to decrease decimal and make it so that you only have 2 sig figs. And then this uncertainty should have 2 sig figs. Right now it only has 1, so I'm going to increase my decimal. So that should be it for your spreadsheet. I just need you to print this out so that I can see both sets. I do not need to see the formulas. I just want to see your actual spreadsheet, make sure that you have all your sig figs right, etc. I also use it to grade your accuracy and precision. So you have to upload this, you get points for uploading it, but you also need to make a hard copy. Okay, so that's the spreadsheet. Graphs printed out from MicroLab. So there's a set of directions. This document has been uploaded to Moodle, so you can find it on Moodle too. You're going to have to go to a campus computer lab, or you're going to have to download MicroLab onto your laptop. You cannot do it on a Mac. You're going to open up your email where you sent your MicroLab file to yourself, download it to your desktop, and then there's two things you can do. You can either try to open the file on the desktop and tell Windows to use MicroLab, or you can open MicroLab first and then try to open your file. I will tell you that when MicroLab is not connected to an actual sensor box, it's very finicky. And so you're going to have to be hitting lots of buttons that say continue and OK and ignore. I had to click ignore several times before it actually opened for me. So once you get it open, like this, so right now I have my derivative and my geometric that we did in class, and I actually want to have two graphs from you, so I'm going to go hide my derivative, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You just select the derivative, right click, hide, and then to print the graph, all you have to do is right click and hit print this graph, and it will print out. So that will be a copy of your geometric equivalence point. Then what I need you to do is go back to your derivative, right click and show it, and then I need you to hide all of the geometric equivalence point lines. So then you just have the derivative showing, and if you need to zoom in, that's fine. You would hit select domain and just kind of like zoom in, and then you can print this graph by right clicking and printing it. One other thing, I need you to label these, so please label what this volume is on your derivative, and then I need you to do the same thing for your geometric points. So I need you to tell me what is the volume at this point here, and I need you to tell me what is the volume at this point here. I need to see all of that on your graphs. Finally, you need to have a caption. So I need you to tell me, figure 1, this is my geometric equivalence point graph. That's it. That's all I need to see, but you get points for having a caption. And then I also need to see on your derivative plot, figure 2. This is a derivative plot of my equivalence point. As long as you write that, you get points. So don't forget to label your volumes and add a caption to both of the graphs that you print out from MicroLab. Going down to the next part, sample calculations. So on Moodle, there's a bunch of great resources. There are some sample calculations here, and I also did one for you on this document right here. So you have certain cells from your spreadsheet that you need to show me sample calculations for. There are 5 of them. And so when we say that, this is what we mean. This is cell R12. We were calculating the concentration of acetic acid. This is how you do it. Here's the actual numbers you used. Here's the answer. So that's what I want to see for each cell that you have to do a sample calculation for. Back up here, written typed conclusion. This is on Moodle in week 8, but just in case you can't find it, Here it is again. So just 1 or 2 sentences for each of these bullet points is all you have to do. And then after you have all of these things done, just make sure that you have your notebook pages attached at the back. And it's always a good idea to look at the rubric that's online before you turn your lab report in, because the rubric tells you exactly what you need to have to get full credit. So this is what you need to have in your notebook pages. Based on everything I just told you, you should have all of these. Here's your written conclusion. Always check the rubric. So in your notebook pages, make sure that you have 2 flowcharts, one from week 1, one for week 2. Do you have observations from week 1 and week 2, like it turned pink and I overshot my first titration, or how you calibrated the pH electrode when we used MicroLab? Make sure you have your unknown ID letter, every burette reading, initial and final, for all of the titrations you did in week 1 and the 1 titration that you did in week 2. Make sure you have the file name of your MicroLab file written in your notebook, where it is saved, which is the desktop of the computer in the lab, and a sketch of the titration curve. It does not have to be perfect, just the basic shape is fine. If you have any other questions, I would suggest that you look at all of these wonderful resources here, and once you have done that, I am happy to answer any questions you have. I hope you have a good Monday.